WHIP, Philly's #1 college radio station.
All right, that's us, Philly's #1 college radio station, WHIP. Main event, Zach Gelb and Chase Sr. here with you on a Football Friday. The Owls will welcome in Teddy Bridgewater and the Louisville Cardinals, 12 o'clock at the Link. Coverage on WHIP begins at 11:30. Let's go out to Edberg Olson Hall right now. Just finished up some meetings with the Temple University football team, and that's the man that will be on the call with our good buddy Anthony Beck for ESPN. We'll be broadcasted on Channel 6 here locally in Philadelphia, and that's Aemon McAneny. Aemon, it's Zach Gelb and Chase Sr. Thanks for taking some time out of your diligent schedule today to join us, and how are you?
I'm doing great, guys. Beautiful day here in Philadelphia. It's going to be warm, but thanks for having me on. Looking forward to another good weekend at the Link.
Well, thank you for coming on. And it's like 80-something degrees today here in Philadelphia. I'm still in shorts and a T-shirt, and we're in October. This is messing up everyone's sinus infection, though, because this weather, it goes from hot to cold, cold to hot. It's terrible right now.
I'm just not sure how these Owls are going to hold up in their all-black uniforms tomorrow. Might want to save those for November with this kind of weather.
And that's something Temple has done each and every game this season. They've changed their uniforms. But this is a Louisville team. They're the real deal. They're undefeated right now. They haven't played too many close games this year. And we were talking about this earlier in the show today, Aemon, that this is a team that could possibly run the table and still not get into the national championship game. What would they have to do to kind of get into that national championship game?
Hope for Ohio State to lose and an SEC team to have 2 losses. They're just not going to have the resume, and that's nothing of their fault. Their schedule took a hit when the Big East and all the realignment went down. They were supposed to play Boise and TCU. When that all fell through, they had to scramble, and obviously when you're a team and a program as good as Louisville, there aren't too many people eager to schedule you. So that took a hit, and let's face it, they could run the table, but with 0 wins over top 25 competition, that's going to be tough to jump an undefeated Ohio State team or a 1-loss SEC team, no matter how you slice it. I mean, you watch them on film, and they're legit. But when you take a look at their resume, they're just not going to add up, no matter how many, no matter how big the wins are.
And this is a team that they're centered around their big-time quarterback who's going to be a Heisman Trophy finalist most likely in Teddy Bridgewater. And this is a Temple defense that has struggled, and it looks like Bridgewater should have a plethora of success on Saturday. What has impressed you the most when you've seen him this year?
It's the comfort level with the offense. He's been in the same offense since he was a freshman, same offense coordinator in Sean Watson. So you see him checking in and out of plays at the line, and it's almost 99% the right play. I mean, mentally, almost as much as physically, is why NFL scouts are ready to pick him in the top 5. And he can throw it, too. Don't get me wrong. I mean, you watch, the Kentucky game, he is throwing darts over the middle, which are tough throws. So he has the physical tools, but also the maturity and the comfort level in this offense that makes it even extra dangerous.
Hey, Aemon, it's Chase Sr. Thanks for hopping on with us. You look at a Louisville team, they could run the table and go undefeated. Then you look at a Temple team that could go defeated. Coming off back-to-back losses to Fordham and Idaho, you just met with the team and the coaching staff. What's the sense around that locker room? Because this is a team that desperately needs a win, but if you look at them, they're going up against Louisville. Chances for a win is pretty slim right now.
Yeah, to be honest with you, Chase, just being in the halls and, being around the building and watching practice, this is an upbeat team, and I don't want that to translate into the sense that they're, happy with the record or satisfied with playing close games. They're not. But, you said a key word there, desperate. And I think being around the coaches, that's the one thing they don't want this team to act like, that we're desperate for a win, because they want this team to play loose. And it's a lot easier to play loose when you're playing a top 10 team that's undefeated and no one gives you a chance to win, much like I'm sure you guys saw the way they played against Notre Dame. They went out there thinking no one gives us a chance, let's just go play loose, and they played pretty well. Now, they gave up big plays, which has been a problem all year, and that gave Notre Dame the difference. That touchdown to the tight end Nicholas at the end of the half was a dagger that's very tough to recover from. So they're giving up big plays, don't get me wrong, but I think the key going into this week is that they're going to play loose. I think what hurt them against Fordham and maybe last week against Idaho was we have to win, and they played tight. And that's nothing to take anything away from Fordham and Idaho. Those guys went out and got the win. But I think for this Temple team to be successful, it's to play loose, and they'll play loose on Saturday. Now, that being said, this is a top 10 team, and I don't really see a weakness in that Louisville squad. So this is an uphill climb, don't get me wrong. But I think Temple, the rest of the way, needs to find a way to play loose and play confident.
Yeah, it's a fantastic point. This Temple defense has really struggled in between the 20s, but their red zone defense has been very impressive in a couple of games this year. It's a very young group, but what can they do to disrupt Teddy Bridgewater, who right now is looking like a Heisman Trophy candidate?
I think the key to disrupting Teddy Bridgewater is to take away their running game. I mean, it's a cliche to say you want to be balanced, but if you can stop Dyer and Perry and, Dominique Brown in that run game and try to get Teddy Bridgewater into third and long, that's the key. Because like any West Coast offense, they want to be balanced, and it starts with the run to set up the passing game. Now, they have some wide receivers that are just very tough to cover. I mean, Devontae Parker, talking to the coaches today, they're like, you try to double him, and then you put on the Kentucky film, and Kentucky doubles him, and he still jumps higher than both of them for a touchdown. I mean, they just have athletes. But I think it's not so much about schemes and taking things away. It's being stout up front, trying to stop that run.
We had linebacking coach Mike Cervara on the show yesterday, and he told us we got to get some pressure this week. And this is a team, they lost their big-time senior in Sean Daniels for the season. Levi Brown is still out there. They've been relying on Matt Ioannidis as of late. But do they have the pieces to go out there and put some pressure on Bridgewater? Because we really haven't seen a good, consistent pass rush all season.
Against this team, it might be tough, but I like the way Nate D. Smith plays football. Last year, when he was a middle linebacker, and now they have him at rush end. I mean, he gets after it, I think he's a good enough athlete to get to Teddy Bridgewater. I haven't had a chance, to see too many of the other freshmen yet. I called the Houston game, but they're still shuffling the deck here the first week of October. But, I think Nate Smith showed you some flashes last week against Idaho. They're high on Kaiser Terry, so we'll see what he can do against a top 10 opponent. But, like I said, I think it's going to be very tough to put pressure on Teddy Bridgewater when they want to concentrate so much on the running game.
Tyler Medikevich had a school record 24 tackles last week against Idaho. Granted, it is a D1 AA program, but Medikevich also leads FBS in tackles as well. You mentioned that you called the Houston game. What have you seen from Medikevich that has really stuck out to you?
He has a nose for the ball, and he's tough. I know he's put on some weight this year, and he's done a good job of having that not slow him down, but I mean, you guys have been seeing it for 2 years here. I mean, he gets the first start of his career against South Florida, and what do you have, 12 tackles? Then he goes up, plays a little chip on his shoulder against Connecticut, and he's a beast all over the place. I mean, he has a knack for the ball. The defense is designed for the will linebacker to make plays. I think now it's for Temple. It's for other guys to come to the party. You show the film, and you're like, how come he's making 24, and, maybe some of the other guys are making only 2 or 3, So, you got to get some of those other guys involved in getting to the ball, and we might see that tomorrow with, some freshmen like Sharif Finch, also Dvorak, starting to play a little bit more. But back to your question, Tyler Medikevich is just a ball player. We all know the story now, lightly recruited, went to a PG year up in New York, and this staff took a chance on him, and right now Matt Rule looks like a very smart recruiter for selling him on Steve Adazio.
Aemon McAneny joins us, and Aemon, when Matt Rule took over as the head football coach of the Temple Owls, he said he wants to bring a pro spread. He wants to have some diversity on offense, where last year under Steve Adazio it was heavy, Temple tough, run kind of system. But you see this Louisville team, they're an offensive juggernaut. The best way to take that away is to not let Bridgewater get out on the field. But this is a Louisville defense that have only allowed 6.8 points per game this season. Do you see Temple rely on the run a little bit more this week to go on those long drives?
Yeah, I think you have to. That's the recipe. If you want to keep Teddy Bridgewater off the field, you don't want to go as quickly. First of all, you want to set the pace. So many college football teams now are up-tempo and want to get the next play and the next play and the next play. Well, I don't think Temple can do that tomorrow. They need to take their time. They need to sort of, slow down but play, fast, if that makes any sense whatsoever. But, you want to bleed the clock as much as possible on offense. And obviously, in order to do that, you have to run the ball and make it third and manageable so that when you do throw it, you're not looking for the deep ball on every play. And, I'll ask you guys, since obviously you have the stats as well. I read the Louisville stats. It's kind of hard. You're like, all right, what can I really take seriously? And I don't mean to slight Louisville, but, all right, 6.8 points a game, but, they shut out their last opponent. Kentucky's an SEC team, but who else have they really played? It's kind of hard to quantify the stats that Louisville's been putting up defensively this year.
No, it definitely has. And then But then you could look at it the other way. Temple went up against Fordham. They were 20-plus point favorites. They lost that game. And then they go up against Idaho. They're 7.5-point favorites, and then the offense doesn't show you anything. I don't have that much faith in this offense at this stage of the season, and they're able to move it inside the 20. But once they get inside the 20s, Aemon, it's just like they shut down. They get inside the 20 so many times, and they try to walk away with this field goal attempts, and the field goal unit has been awful this year.
No, that has hurt them. I mean, like I said, we discussed the Houston game. If you have a reliable kicking game, if that's last year with McManus, that's a completely different game.
Yeah, you win.
No, you win, and so I mean that's just a tough break for the Owls. I like what I've seen out of Connor Riley in that offense, and you talk about getting in that red zone. Again, it sounds like excuses, but it's youth and it's learning everything, and again. You take a look at those wide receivers, though. You'd love to steal one of Charlie Strong's receivers. Nothing against the Temple receivers, but, 5'9", 5'11", 5'10". Give me one of those 6'4" guys. We'll go throw the fade. And it doesn't matter how young we are, right?
Yeah, Connor Riley on the season, you mentioned him just a few moments ago. He's 73 of 139, 2 touchdowns to 2 interceptions, good for just under 53% on his throws. He's got all the physical tools. He's a big guy. He's got decent size, decent mobility, and he's got a cannon for an arm. I mean, he can throw it and chuck it 70 yards downfield just standing on 2 feet.
That's the problem, though, right?
Right.
I mean, the first pass of the Houston game, he threw it, into Camden.
Too far, yeah.
And I'm just having fun with you guys, but I mean, that's what separates quarterbacks, is developing that touch so that your wide receiver can go make a play on it. But I apologize for interrupting.
No worries. We love your insight. But leading to my point, he's only got 4 games played, and he's got some good attributes, but he hasn't really been able to put it together. I think that inexperience has really cost him a little bit. Do you see him being close to breaking out and having a decent game? It might not happen against Louisville, but later on in the season.
Yeah, I mean, I think the world of him. You know his background and how tough he is. You saw it against Notre Dame. Now, I understand Notre Dame's defense right now isn't playing the way it did last year and the way we thought it would. So, week 1, carving up Notre Dame was a lot more impressive than it has been. But still, you talk about Notre Dame getting carved up. That's by Michigan and Oklahoma. So he played well in that game. I think what really hurt him was getting hurt, obviously, because if he's healthy and he plays that whole Fordham game, this is a completely different season right now. And you hate to pin it on one guy, but that's just a fact. They tried to get through that game without him playing, and then they, tried him to be Superman off the bench, and he was. He led them to victory. The victory was in their hands. So I think the world of him and his toughness, and, you hate to keep going back to inexperience, but the more comfortable he gets with this offense and big-time BCS Division I football and his teammates, I think you're going to look at a very good quarterback.
Aemon McAneny joins us. A few more questions right before we let him go. He'll be on the call for ESPN this week, Channel 6 here locally in Philadelphia. And Aemon, Chris Coyer, he was the quarterback of this team last year, had some success 2 years ago, won a bowl game actually at the quarterback position. Then they changed him to an H-back and then also a tight end as well. What have you seen so far from number 10?
You like everything he brings to the table as an athlete and a football player. I mean, I think his teammates have so much respect for him. I mean, every article you read talking about him being a second coach on the field, I think he's been a great asset for Connor Riley, even though it's been a different offense than the one he ran as quarterback under Steve Adazio. I just think he's a leader and a very impressive young man, but he's also, more importantly right now for this team, making plays in both the passing game and as a blocker. He's kind of a linchpin of that offense that, you take a look at the depth chart, is still figuring itself out with so many now new faces at the line at important positions with Dawkins and McGowan getting playing time, that a guy like Chris Coyer just in the huddle alone is invaluable.
Aemon, this was a whole lot of fun. Thanks so much. Have a good call coming up on Saturday with Anthony Beck, and let's talk to you again next time you're here in Philly.
All right, guys. Sounds good. Thanks a lot. Have a good weekend.